CAC Radio every Thursday. I'm here with Mike and Larry.
How you doing?
I'm doing extremely well. And make sure you guys check this out on streetleaguemovement.com. But we're here. We have a politician in the building, a little different than our normal shows. See, we give you guys range. So his name is Daryl Johnson. He's actually the president of the Morris Avenue Tenants Coalition.
Okay. Yep.
And you're running for office, right?
I'm running for city council. Yep.
Yes.
District 16 in the Bronx.
And when is that going to take place?
September 10th.
Oh, okay.
Right. So, like I told you, like I'm a little I'm not gonna sit here and act like I know a lot about like politics and stuff, but I do have like some questions for you, and just a person, I just have a lot of questions. So you're from the Bronx originally?
I'm actually from Brooklyn, right here in BK.
Oh, but how did you get involved with Bronx like politics? Is that how it works? Like each borough has their own like. Yes. So why did you not?
I've been living in the Bronx for about 20 years now, my entire life.
And you still don't want to claim it.
We do not mean that. All right, so
I'm claiming it.
So living in the Bronx for 20 years, what have you seen in the Bronx that made you run for city council?
Oh man, we're underserved, man. I mean, just you name it. Gun violence, education. I mean, we're just underserved, man. Somebody had to step up to the plate.
That's true. Like, okay, so one of my questions that I did want to talk to you about is like, because I was having like a heated debate with one of my friends about stop and frisk.
Okay.
Because I kind of like, I'm not saying I don't agree with it, but he really agreed with it. He just felt like, and he's a black man, and I was like, well, don't they like stop and frisk you, and do you like it? And he was just like, he just felt like it really does keep the streets safe. So I just feel like if you're gonna do it, like I just feel like they're always like zeroing in on black males. So I just feel like if you're gonna do it, then you should just do it to everyone that has suspicious activity going on. Because I feel like a lot of times it's white people as well that are doing things or like you're always checking this young black man for coke, but if you would actually go to Wall Street, you know how many 8 balls those people have? Like why don't you stop and frisk them? So I just wanted to know like how you felt about stop and frisk.
You know, we're disproportionately affected in my district by gun violence. We have a lot of guns. We have a lot of guns on the street.
Right.
Stop and frisk is a policy. The way it's being carried out right now is not necessarily fair. As you said, people are being stopped, and it's not everyone. It's not a uniform policy.
Right.
Rather than take it away, I think it needs to change a little bit. I think it needs to be more respectful and mindful of rights. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I mean, I actually agree with what you're saying, but how would you craft the stop and frisk policy to change it, to alter it, to make it better for your community as well as my community, Ms. Lissa's community? Actually, know what? The minority community of New York City, especially in the Bronx where you're at.
Well, you know, right now, stop and frisk, supposedly it's a program aimed at all the gun violence to help us, right? We're shooting each other, we're killing each other, we're doing things. Accountability, making it accountable. You know, everyone that you stop, you need to give them a ticket, whether they're arrested or not. You need to give them a receipt, and it needs to be tracked and memorialized somehow. That's one way we can do it, and that keeps people honest. Cops, anyway.
Right.
Exactly, but the cops not, you know what, and here's the big problem that I have with our community just as a whole. Our relationship with the cops can be improved because it's been so many times of cops treating us negatively. And you know what, let me not even say that, let me say this. It can be 1 million good cops, 3 bad cops. What's gonna get on the news? The bad cops. So in the public forum, when you see a whole bunch of cops being negative and racial profiling, it makes the relationship bad with the African American community. With that, it becomes ill will towards us. Ill will towards us, we disrespect police at sometimes, and then they just give the same disrespect back because you give to get. Now, for those cops that don't give the receipts, as you're saying, what penalties do you feel like those police should face? 1, and 2, how would you try to better the relationship with the minority community and cops? How would you try to better that?
Well, let me take the last part first. The only way you're going to better communities is by engaging. So cops can't ride around in dark tinted windows and expect the community to trust them. And vice versa. You know, it goes both ways. Community needs to be engaged. We need to engage police officers. One program that I want to, you know, New York City has had a residency requirement for police officers for about 5 years now. So things are changing. It used to be they were from Long Island, Westchester, completely out of touch. Now you have more officers, younger, smarter, who are from the city, from the boroughs. One program that I wanted to come up with was have officers who are from the Bronx patrol the Bronx. This way you understand the dynamic better. You understand what you're dealing with. As far as individual officers, training needs to be number one. You can't legislate behavior, but you can train, and you can put consequences, and I mean up to and including termination.
Okay, that's true. And what was it that he answered both parts?
Yeah, he touched on both subjects. Now, one thing, I do have just one thing to say about it. And, you know, I like to engage because the people need to vote. But in order to vote, I feel like the people should ask questions.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And know exactly what the candidate is about. So I try to lead by example by doing that. Now, I do have a little bit of a problem with the residency requirements because let's say you live in the Bronx, you patrol the Bronx. That kind of is a conflict of interest because if you live in the Bronx and you got friends, you know, y'all do y'all thing, they took one route, you took the other route. It could be favoritism shown because the cops are from that same community and you know them. Also, enemies. If you live in that community, if you live in the Bronx still, you know, enemies can come at you if you do them wrong. So we'll put the officers in danger as well as possibly cause a favoritism clause. If they stop their mans and they know they're doing something wrong, they might let them go because, oh, I grew up with them, that's my mans. So
why you talking to Mr. Johnson like that?
Like what?
That's my man. You know what that means?
No, I'm just
okay, just making sure. He knows the lingo.
Projects too, so.
Okay, which one?
Williamsburg.
Okay.
So how do you feel about that aspect?
Listen, you know, police officers are sworn to protect, right? They have a covenant that they take, whether they're working in Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx. We need to get creative. That's something that we haven't seen, you know. So that approach that I just mentioned to you hasn't been tried. You know, to prevent risk, I mean, you do integrity tests. I mean, you assign certain officers to certain areas. I brought up assigning officers who live in the borough in the same borough because of cultural differences. You know, we have huge African population now in the Bronx, in my district, huge Dominican population. I mean, there's cultural differences. If officers don't speak English, that can cause a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Or if they don't speak Spanish or other languages.
Right, Bronxlish, because that's the
Bronxlish,
nice.
yes.
But speaking of the Bronx, there was a little incident that actually just took place where there was a young man who I guess was like shooting, and the cop told him to freeze. He didn't stop, so the cop shot him in the head, and the young man did pass away. Do you feel like the cop was justified in what he did, or do you feel like he could have took another route, like possibly maybe like shoot him in the leg, or like what is your take on that?
Well, I'm about preservation of life, so I always think that another route would have been best.
Right.
Let me just say that this young man lived in my district. His family still lives in my district,
Right.
so this is an issue that's near and dear to me. I think one question about this whole incident that hasn't been asked and needs to be asked is, where did this young man where did this 14-year-old get a gun?
And why was he
Who
out
gave
at like
him
3
that
o'clock in
gun?
the morning or something?
Yeah, 3 o'clock in the morning. That's a question for the parents. I have yet to see the mother. I've seen the aunt and a lot of other people.
That
but
mother
I've yet to
hiding
see the
from you,
mother.
Mr. Johnson.
I have questions here just as much because, you know, in this role that I'm running for, I'm going to be the first to have to defend these people.
Right.
In situations like that. I'm going to have.
And I feel like another thing that people are constantly saying about him, this young man, was that he was like a gangster, and it's like, is his life any less like meaningful than
Not at all.
so
Not
like
at
that
all.
shouldn't even be like something that they continuously bring up, like, well, he was this kind of person, that kind of a person. But I don't know, I just felt like, especially with what just happened with Trayvon Martin, like a lot of people were comparing it to that, and I'm like, it's not like that. But there is a lot of, like, whenever something happens where it's like a white person doing something to a black person, we get all crazy. But it's like, we're killing each other every day, and no one cares. Shout out to you, Mama G, because I know that you was just talking to me about that. But people, like, I don't understand what it is. Like, do you feel like, what is the disconnect in the, like, in the universe now where, like, we just are not doing the right thing? Like, how come, I feel like back in the day, like, black people, like, we stood for something, like Black Panther movement, and to look at where the world is now, like, I just feel like we went backwards.
Media has a lot to play with it, you know. Media has a lot to do with it. You know, missing white blonde girl goes missing. You're gonna hear about it for 3 months. How many black women guns today, and you don't hear anything about it. And that's media. We don't control the media, the mass media. So they have a lot to play with it. They seem to thrive on our incidents and our challenges. Molly Graham, this young man, the 14-year-old, another Karan Lucas from last week in Concourse Village who was stabbed. That's PR on the part of the police department. First thing, let's get the record. Let's get the record out there first. Let them know that this was a thug, this was a this, and make ourselves look better. Training, it has a lot to do with training. Ray Kelly has still to make an argument that I can accept that you have to shoot to kill. I know you need to shoot to stop, but it's done. I mean, LA, they use rubber bullets, they use bean bags. I mean, non-lethal means, and we can do it. But back to your question, Ms. Liz, it's the family breakdown. We got to get back to family. We got to get back to our priorities here, I think,
Do you have children?
I do.
Any young boys?
I do.
So what do you feel like you're doing that's kind of prevent them from going the wrong way?
They don't go nowhere. Basically, I didn't know what outside looked like when I was coming up. I mean,
even with me coming up, cause my family's from projects too. I was only allowed to go, and I felt like I was caged in, but I mean, it was for the better. I couldn't go past the front of the building when I was supposed to see my grandmother.
You couldn't hear them calling you, it was a wrap.
Yeah, I couldn't go past the front building, and there were a lot of the girls that were my age that could go to the park all the way down, and I was I can't go, and I felt a little sad, but now I feel like it was definitely for the better, because there was a lot of kids that ended up getting kidnapped in that park, and my parents were just no, you just can't do it, stay in front of this building. So you keep your kids caged in.
I do, and I was fortunate, my mom didn't make court appearances, she went to graduations, I want to increase the number of people doing that. Right now in this country we have more black males incarcerated between the age of 18 to 25 than in school.
That's sad.
Educated. It's very sad.
Do you feel like the government or even just the universe right now is just set up to keep us, especially young black men, down? Do you feel like that's or do you feel like it's us keeping each other down?
I mean, we got equality back in the 60s. What we're missing now is equity. And we have a responsibility. We have a big role to play in that. The advantages are out there. Do we take full advantage of them? I'm going to say no. I mean, we complain a lot. I mean, you take voting, for instance. How many of us really vote?
I'm not
talking about 106 in Park for your top 10 videos of the day. We're talking about real voting, going to the polls.
Even I'm guilty of it. I feel because I'll vote for president, but when it comes to voting for politicians or voting for senate and stuff like that, I don't, and I don't even know what
You hit it on the head. Again, it's the media. We break our necks, we stand in line 3 hours to vote for a president.
Obama.
And, we're so detached from the presidency, you have no idea.
Right.
Exactly.
We need to be voting for our governor, our mayor, our local council members. These are the people that we need to vote for, and sadly we don't. I'm hoping with this election it'll change.
And
No, go ahead.
And that's where it's situations where Obama will be in House, he's a Democrat. The House of Representatives and the Senate will be controlled by Republicans, and then you get a stopgap where nothing gets done. Yeah, we have a black president, yeah. But the fact that you wasn't paying attention during those off years of voting, now you have the House of Representatives and the Senate that do not even want to try and consider to work with the president.
You're right. I mean, they have congressmen and senators who have signed pledges not to work with Obama until he leaves. I mean, that's not cool. It's not cool.
Do you feel like we'll ever have another black president?
I think so. I think so. I think, if we see more committed and focused individuals like Barack Obama was, but let me just make this statement here, and I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way, but, the overwhelming amount of support that put Barack Obama in office was not black.
Well, of course,
I question if it was up to us, would he be in the office? If it was up to us alone, I question that.
Right.
So, there's a lot of white folks behind him. We need to.
But that second time around, we was sweating.
Yeah.
We was nervous. Gas prices went up. We got a little nervous. But what do you think is your next step? So let's say you win this election, inevitably, what do you want out of this? Do you want to be the mayor, or do you want to be what do you see yourself doing?
Ms. Liz, honestly, I don't have no aspirations beyond this right now.
Okay.
I can really be more effective doing this job. It's
Okay.
the chief executive officer of my little district, 189,000 people.
That's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people. You know, if I can create 3,000 jobs in my first 4 years, I'm doing something. If I can keep people from getting evicted from their house, I'm doing something. If I can keep food on their table, I'm doing something. If I can help people get their credit back up, I'm doing
Can
something.
you help me get my, please, Mr. Johnson, help me, please. Do you think Bloomberg is a good mayor? Wait, matter of fact, let's take a quick break.
Oh.
And when we come back, we're gonna let him answer that question. And we also gonna see what he thinks about what's going on in pop culture. Are you crying? Cause it got a little wild for Jay-Z. You wanna know what you think.